Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here this morning. I'm Greg Walden, as I think you all know, and represent the people of the 2nd District of Oregon. I want to thank the Klamath Chamber and Heather and Wes for hosting us here today. We appreciate it very much. Thank you for letting us use this wonderful facility. It's not the first time we've done it, and we certainly appreciate it. I don't have to tell anybody in this room about the incredible importance of agriculture in the Klamath Basin. But there are some important statistics I think it's important to remember. We have 1,000 farms in Klamath County, 1,000 farms. We have 650,000 acres of farmland in the county. Combined crop and livestock sales annually reach approximately $200 million. Agriculture is essential to the lifeblood, not only of Klamath County, but also, frankly, our entire congressional district. And it's especially fitting that today, a day when we recognize our veterans, as we will today and tomorrow around the country, we also talk about Klamath water. Because originally many of today's Klamath farms were first homesteaded by those who fought for freedom in far-off lands in World War I. Yesterday I introduced the Klamath Infrastructure Improvement Act. This is an important piece of legislation that is aimed at providing affordable power for farmers in the Klamath Basin. I was joined in this by my colleague from across the line, Doug Lamalfa, asked to be a co-sponsor of this legislation, so we're working on this together, which is important. Since the expiration in 2006 of 2 separate affordable power agreements that span nearly 90 years between private hydropower producers and reclamation, many districts and individual operators have experienced electric rate increases of more than 2,000%. The bill is intended to bring Klamath project power costs to be similar in line with rates at reclamation projects in other parts of the Pacific Northwest. This legislation directs the Department of Interior to conduct a study to identify a path forward to achieving lower power rates. Options on the table could include small power, hydropower when it makes sense, but there could be other options as well. Affordable power is key for on-project water use efficiency. This benefits all stakeholders in the Klamath River watershed. This legislation also directs the Department of Interior to begin implementation of a plan to achieve lower power rates within 180 days of completion of the report. In addition, affordable power also benefits fish species as it aids in the conservation of irrigation water, so more water can be left in Upper Klamath Lake and for in-stream needs. We can have a partnership here that produces lower cost power with new resources and provides greater efficiency and delivery of water for those in agriculture, which also will benefit fish. Affordable power will benefit both on and off project users. It's obviously incredibly important and valuable to the overall community's economy. This legislation also enables the sea flume to be eligible for rehabilitation under the Bureau of Reclamation's emergency programs. Sea flume directly serves water to approximately 23,000 acres in both Oregon and California. The federal government has consistently claimed that the sea flume, which crosses over a highway, as you all know, is on the verge of catastrophic failure. This legislation would use existing federal authorities to designate this important project infrastructure safety improvement as an emergency measure. The legislation has been referred to the House Resources Committee. We hope to have legislative hearings on the bill in the near future. I want to thank you again for being here today. I know we have some other folks who want to speak about this, so I'll turn it over now to Scott White with the Klamath Water Users Association.
Well, first of all, thank you, Congressman, very much for introducing the Klamath Infrastructure Improvement Act. Thank you all for being here. Rep. Reschke, thank you for being here. And also thanks to Congressman Lamalfa as well for co-sponsoring this bill. You heard the Congressman talk about the power piece of this bill and the importance of it. I just want to highlight that a little bit. Certainly this is helpful for individual farmers and ranchers, but in addition to that, you're looking at a project that can use a drop of water 7 times over. The efficiency of this project is incredible. I want to tell a short story here. A couple of weeks ago, well, a few weeks ago now, I was touring some folks around the project, and we were talking about the power piece of all of this. And they were asking, why do you need affordable power? Isn't the high rate of power being effectively turning the project to be more conservative with their water? And I said, actually, it's quite contrary to that. I said, in many cases, a lot of people are going back to flood irrigating because of the cost of power. And it wasn't 2 minutes after I said that, I drove up onto a field, and sure enough, there's a field that's water's flooding out into the field, and there's a pivot sitting in the middle of it. So you can see right there, instead of using that high efficient pivot, they were flood irrigating their fields. Flood irrigating, you can see water just drain off the back end of it. So affordable power helps on farm and also the efficiency of the project as well. Back to the economics, as you all are aware, agriculture is huge for this community, all of our communities here locally. Farm gate sales total over $300 million, and these are 2013 numbers that I'm going to say here, but over $300 million. That actually results in indirect and induced economic value for the community of near $1 billion. Affordable power helps with that. The Congressman mentioned the seaflume infrastructure. This is a centuries-old project. Infrastructure is something that needs to be addressed, and this is just the beginning. Overall, this is a first step. This is just the first step. There are many, many more issues that need to be resolved. We commend the congressman, both congressmen, on this first step, but there's still much more work to do across the entire basin for not just our community, but other communities as well. So thank you again, Congressman. Really appreciate it. Thank you all for being here. And I'll be around afterwards for questions as well. So thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. Before I call up County Commissioner Donnie Boyd, I'd just like to point out that in the intervening time between when I spoke and when he spoke, the value of Farmgate in the basin grew by $100 million. And I'll take your number. Now I'd like to have Donnie Boyd come up and share some comments.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you. I'm not as polished as the rest of these guys, so I've got to read off this speech a little more. On behalf of the Klamath County Board of Commissioners, I'd like to welcome Congressman Greg Walden. Thank you, Greg. Once again, I'd like to welcome my friend back to the Klamath Basin. I've personally worked with Greg since 2001, fighting the local water challenges. And it's emotional to me, as you can see. He has helped lead local efforts on critical issues facing our community in the past, including telecommunications, higher education, and healthcare challenges. I am pleased once again to be standing here this morning with my friend, Congressman Greg Walden. I'm looking forward to working with you further. With your continued leadership and encouragement, we will be needed to put the path forward to more certain and affordable water and power for our farmers and ranchers. I'd like to thank Greg for introducing the Klamath Infrastructure Improvement Act. This bill will help address a rising cost of power for our local producers, provide tools to manage water as efficiently as possible, and to provide important infrastructure improvements that are needed to continue as long as tradition of agriculture in the region. Agriculture provides tremendous direct and indirect benefits to the local regional economy. Klamath County is the economic hub of this region. Many benefits to the local economy provided improvements, economic stability to places like Klamath County, Lake County, and 2 counties in northern California as well. When you look at agriculture as an entire business within our counties, it is one of the largest business sector to employ employees in the county. Forgotten by many of all of this, and a story of great pride in our community, relates to the veterans of 2 world wars who were awarded homesteads on farmland in the Klamath Irrigation Project. As a thank you for the grateful nation, these homesteaders united and began to build schools, churches, and even a hospital in Klamath Falls. They literally built our community. Some of these veterans and many of their descendants still live in Klamath County today, or Northern California. and their existence is tied to the reliable water and power benefits. I think it is fitting that Congressman Walden chose to publicly introduce this bill today, Veterans Day, in the Klamath Basin. I will continue to look for opportunities that will bring positive economic results to our community that include seeking opportunities to help solve the Klamath Basin water challenges. I encourage other parties in the basin who are seeking constructive, collaborated solutions to join us in a united effort to solve these long-standing water challenges. And thank you very much for today.
Thank you. Thank you, Donnie. Thank you, Commissioner. We appreciate your leadership in the county and your work with us on this too. And I think your point is very important about the collaborative nature of this. It is important we come together and find solutions one at a time to the problems here. Up next, from Trout Unlimited, please welcome Kristen Lambert. Thank you, Kristen, for being here. I know you're no stranger to today's.
Trout Unlimited is here today to support this bill which will implement the Klamath Power and Facilities Agreement, which we're a signatory along with our colleagues at California Trout and Sustainable Northwest. We're grateful to Congressman Walden, who changed sides on me, for taking this important step forward toward delivering a better, more secure, and more sustainable future for our basin. The Klamath River historically was the third most productive watershed for salmon and steelhead, behind only the Columbia and the Sacramento. Restoring this river and creating durable water sharing agreements in the upper basin has been a very high priority for Trout Unlimited nationally, because we really want to see a basin that's successful for people and for fish and wildlife. Over the last 16 years, I and others have been part of a broad coalition of irrigators, conservationists, tribal interests, and we've worked to resolve some of the most critical issues here. Over that time, most of us have developed a shared vision for the future, and we remain convinced that our interests are bound together. For any of us to succeed, we all need to succeed together. Well, implementation of this bill is a critical step forward for our communities. The work is far from done. We look forward to collaborating with everyone that's here today and the other interests in the basin to find those durable solutions that will give us a truly comprehensive vision for the future. I know I grew up here in Southern Oregon, fishing the Klamath River from the headwaters down to the mouth with my father and my grandfather. But my family also has really deep and long-standing ties here with Oregon agriculture. I simply don't believe that we need to choose between healthy fisheries and healthy economies. Instead, we can really work towards the shared vision of the future. And that's why I personally support this bill as an important step towards that. We're very pleased to have Congressman Walden here today with the shared acknowledgement that there'll be additional congressional action we need in the future to complete our vision. We salute his commitment to delivering solutions to the basin that help both people and the Klamath's legendary steelhead and salmon runs. Together, I'm confident we'll succeed in this. Thank you.
Now we have a representative from the Oregon Water Resources Congress. Please welcome April Snell.
Thank you, Congressman Walden. The Oregon Water Resources Congress is the voice of irrigated agriculture in Oregon, and I am here to support the Klamath Infrastructure Improvement Act, and I really appreciate Congressman Walden's efforts to move this bill forward. As you've heard from the other speakers, pumping is a very expensive cost, and it is very essential to making sure that you get water on the fields to continue to grow food and fiber. The Klamath Basin is one of the most special places in this state, if not the country, yet it also is very complex. The products that are grown here, including mint, potatoes, go all over the world, but without water and without affordable power to get the water there, those products may not be growing and may not go all over the world. And the Klamath Basin is so special, yet it needs lots of help, and as you've heard from the other speakers, this is an important step forward to ensuring that there are additional provisions to ensure that the sea flume can be repaired, and ensuring that there are reduced power costs to the irrigators and providing certainty to both off-project and on-project users, as well as providing benefits to the treasured National Wildlife Refuge. So while there are still many more steps to come and there are efforts that will be needed, I am happy to say that we will be engaging with Congressman Walden to help move this bill forward and hope that the Klamath Basin can continue to thrive in this wonderful place that we all love. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And our last speaker is our host for this facility, at least, Wes French, who's going to talk about this from a business perspective in the Klamath Basin. Wes, thank you for your hospitality.
Well, thanks everybody for showing up. Representative Walden, a big supporter of the basin. Commissioners Boyd and the other two back there. Good to see both of you. But who I'd really like to thank for being here is all of our elected officials, obviously, but really the people of this basin are the important part of this meeting, if you ask me. I'm Wes French. I'm from the Klamath Chamber of Commerce, and our mission is to promote healthy business in Klamath County and throughout Klamath Falls. And even if we can help Northern California and anywhere else, we're all for that because we're a collaborative unit that really looks towards that sort of goal. So I'm going to repeat a lot of things because the great speakers behind me have already mentioned most of it. But this place was built on ranching and farming primarily, but there's a lot of ranching going on. And so I love seeing in the back there the folks that are doing this job day in and day out. They rely on affordable power. And the reason they need affordable power is to make sure that the water gets used efficiently. And just like any other business, if it's inefficient to do something, they're going to find that the more efficient or inexpensive way to do it. And unfortunately, that's not the best for the water that's being used. So by enacting this bill, we do a lot of things. First off, we make it affordable to move water around the basin, which helps out the refuge. It helps out the farmers. It helps out the watersheds. Second, we improve safety throughout the basin. If the sea flume was to catastrophically collapse, we would have a huge, huge, huge catastrophe on our hands. And people think, that's just some water in a canal. It's not, and it would make a huge impact on this relatively flat basin. So we're strong supporters of this bill and everybody that is supporting this bill, just really behind them and hoping this goes on. Because overall, it strengthens the Klamath County, the Klamath businesses, and that's good for everybody in this basin. So with that, I'd like to say thanks for letting me speak for a couple minutes, and thank you all, especially there in the back that showed up to watch and listen and support, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'd be happy to take questions from members of the press if you've got any questions on this.
How long has this legislation been in process?
Well, the issue goes back a number of years, as you know. We've been working on the legislation for a matter of several months. And I know in conversations I've had with the Secretary of Interior, Secretary Zinke, and his team, they obviously have gotten up to speed about some of the issues we face here. There were similar provisions in a bill, I think, Nick, in the Senate last year, as I recall. So overall, we've been noodling around on this for some time, matter of a couple of years. We've come forward with this legislation now. Looks a lot like what made its way wandering around in the Senate last year. So there's a good opportunity here between the two bodies to find agreement and get moving on it. So, yeah. Yeah, Lyle?
I guess while this bill has a little bit more to do with moving water around, I'm just wondering, is there anything that we're working on as far as improving more water certainty in, say, dry years?
So we're not going to tackle everything here today that we need to tackle over time, but certainly water storage matters. And when you can get water efficiency, as we've seen in other watersheds in our district, in Central Oregon, for example, they were able to pipe more of their canals, put them in pipes, put hydropower, small-scale hydro in that and help pay for the operations, develop carbon-free energy. And as a result, there was more water that went into the streams. Farmers didn't have to always pump where they might have had to in the past because now it's a pressurized system. So what that and this can do is help maximize what we do have as we work on these other bigger issues that are a little more complex. So we're trying to take this a bite at a time and deal with energy. And the other thing I've learned over my time in public service is these agencies magically sometimes have little pots of excess money around if you can just get them the authority to be able to use it. And that's what our hope is here as well, that we get through a authorizing process, which is really what this does, tell them to go do this study, come back with a plan. They've got a lot more tools than we do to get into the weeds. And so I think they'll come back with a plan. I think we can then move forward on both fronts, on the energy side and on the water side. But we also have a lot of other work we know we need to engage on. I don't know if anybody else wants to. No, all right. Feel free to weigh in. Any other questions? From the press?
Yes, Dan Kevin, Farmline's monthly briefing.
Yes. Well, I suppose in today's media world, you and the Russians, you know.
Could you talk a little bit about, this is a standalone bill.
Right.
And can you talk a little bit about how, what is the vehicle that this could move forward and how you see that process moving forward?
Yeah, so, there are a couple of things. It's important to get the standalone bill there and going. And have the hearings, do all the legwork we need to do legislatively, and then get it moving along. Somewhere along the way, though, there will be bigger packages of similar sorts of legislation that affect areas around the country. I'm looking for any train that's moving, and there will be some trains moving at the end of this year, sometime next year. When tax reform is done, we're probably going to move into infrastructure reform. This would be a marvelous little infrastructure piece to grow the economy in the Klamath Basin, deal with infrastructure water, infrastructure energy. My committee on energy and commerce, which I chair, we've moved a few bills already to sort of expedite siting and make sure we got safety and surety and all that could be part of a bigger infrastructure project going forward. So lots of options out there. This is the time to get moving on it, though. Yes?
Under the current administration, what's your confidence level as having this become law?
They're very much aware. The Trump administration is aware of the work we're doing here. I will not try and wade in and speak for the Secretary of Interior, the President, or anybody else. That's their job. But I do not think they would oppose this in any way, shape, or form. They are getting up to speed on these issues and want to be positive participants in the basin. They know energy is an issue. They know infrastructure is an issue. We are in contact with them on a regular basis on this and other issues in our district. So I look for them to be a partner on this. Yeah. All right. Thank you all for coming out. Appreciate it.